First story. My entitled ex left me for cheating on him with his best friend. We stayed FWB. I let him punish my son and grounded him. Now I've left my son with my FWB new boyfriend, so I can go on my Miami trip. My ex found out and demanded my boyfriend give him his son. He refused, mocked and humiliated my ex, and abused my son. I let it go to go on my second trip. Now I'm regretting my actions. I 28F recently went on a 5-day girls trip. And I guess I'm wondering if I really messed up by leaving my 7-year-old son with someone his dad hates without telling him. For context, my son's dad 30M and I aren't together and haven't been for years. He's a decent dad, takes him almost every weekend, pays support even without a court order, and shows up to school events when he can. But I have the majority of time with our kid just because of how our work schedules are set up. We've never gone to court. Everything's been informal. And I won't lie, I tend to make the everyday parenting calls, which he sometimes hates. So, I planned this girls' trip with my 2 best friends, nothing wild, just 5 days in Miami. First real break I've had in ages. I sorted out childcare ahead of time. My mom offered to watch my son for the week. I texted my ex about it too, and asked if he wanted to keep him the whole week, even though that's not normal. I told him it was totally fine if he said no, because I already had it covered with my mom. He said he couldn't work stuff, but he'd take that Friday off and pick up our son Thursday night, and keep him till Sunday like usual. Cool. No issues. Until literally the day before my flight, my mom calls me and says she's sick. Not anything major, just one of those, don't want to risk it things. Some flu-like symptoms. My mom's in her 60s, so she's cautious, especially around kids. I kind of panicked for a sec. Didn't want to cancel the trip. My friends had already booked the Airbnb and everything. My mom's house is my fallback for everything, so when she cancels, I usually scramble. But right then, I was with my boyfriend. I say boyfriend, but honestly, we're more like longtime friends with benefits. We've been fooling around off and on for 2 years, but have known each other since we were teens. It's casual. My kid sees him like an uncle, nothing more. I've never introduced him as anything else. Anyway, he offered to help. He said he'd take my son for the week. He has a son who's 8, same school, same class, and the 2 boys are best friends. He even moved around his custody schedule, so the boys could have the whole week together. Like a school week sleepover. He lives with his adult daughter 19F, who also helps watch his kids. She was home from community college for break, and more than willing to help when he had work shifts. Honestly, it felt like the easiest fix. Here's where I may have seriously effed up. I didn't tell my ex. At all. I knew he wouldn't like it. He hates my boyfriend. Like, they have history. Messy history. Backstory. They were friends back in their early 20s. They fell out hard. There was some drama over money, me, and ego's typical small-town alpha male bullshit. Ever since, there's been tension. They don't speak. They don't even make eye contact at events. I don't bring my boyfriend around if I know my ex will be there. That's just the rule. But honestly, I didn't feel like dealing with the drama. I told myself I'd let my ex know later. But I figured as long as our son was safe, happy, and being watched by someone I trusted, it didn't matter who it was. I knew I was being shady. I figured I'd just text him the address on Thursday, when it was time to pick up, and explain later. Ask forgiveness, not permission, yeah, I know. Anyway, I left for the trip. The boys were fine. My son was sending me selfies, pictures with his friend, playing video games, and walking to school together. His daughter sent me updates. My boyfriend even cooked them actual meals like real food, not just nuggets and cereal. It was going great. Until Thursday. That morning, I texted my ex that he should pick our son up at 6 p.m. from this address, my boyfriend's place. He immediately called me like 5 times. Then texted, "WTF are you talking about? Whose house is this?" I didn't respond right away. I was in the middle of brunch, and, honestly, didn't want to ruin my last full day. When I finally answered, he was livid. Said I was out of line, that I dumped our son with someone I knew he hated, and accused me of being irresponsible and sneaky. He drove over to get our son, and apparently things got ugly. My boyfriend couldn't resist being a DCK. That's just his personality. So when my ex showed up, my boyfriend made small talk like, "Hey man, didn't know you were still in the picture." Then he started with SHT like, "Are you sure this one's yours? Kid doesn't really look like you." Which, by the way, is a sore spot. My son takes after me physically. He has my eyes, my skin tone, everything. My ex has made comments before, jokingly, that he's always been the odd one out. My boyfriend knows this, and he went right for the jugular. He even told me later that when my ex was visibly angry, he said, "Man, if you were really his dad, maybe you'd know where he was all week." That set my ex off. They didn't fight or anything, but my ex refused to even acknowledge my boyfriend after that. Just took our son and left. I didn't think it would blow up like that. I figured he'd be annoyed. Sure, but my kid wasn't in danger. He was with someone he's known his whole life. Someone who has kids, a house, and support. It wasn't like I left him with a random stranger or dumped him with a party friend. But then my mom called me later and said she'd talked to my ex. She told me she even thought I was wrong, that I should have at least told him when she canceled. That giving him the ability to make that call was basic parenting respect. She said something like, "He's right to be angry if he left your son with someone you hated without telling you. You'd lose your mind." She's not wrong. I probably would. So yeah, after hearing that from my mom, I started second-guessing the whole thing. I was still on the trip, and now I'm fielding text from my ex saying he's going to rethink how we handle custody, that I showed a total lack of respect, and that I hid where our son was staying out of convenience. He said if I had just told him about my mom bailing, he would have found a way to make it work. Maybe called out sick. Maybe he got his sister to help. Anything but leaving our son with a man he doesn't trust. And yeah, he doesn't trust him, even if I do. And I get it. My boyfriend stirred the pot on purpose. He didn't need to poke at the "doesn't look like you" stuff. That was petty. But that's who he is. He's a trash talker. I didn't expect him to roll out the red carpet. But I also didn't expect him to bait the father of my kid into a screaming match on the porch. Back when my son was around 3, my boyfriend once showed up uninvited to my son's birthday party at my mom's house and started talking about how he was stepping in where others fell short. My ex left early that day. Ever since then, it's been no contact. So yeah, the bad blood's been there. But here's my thing: if my boyfriend had been just another male friend I've known forever who offered to help out, and they didn't have beef, this wouldn't even be an issue. What is the issue? That I didn't give my ex the option to say no. That's what he keeps hammering me with. That it's not about who watched our son. It's about me deciding unilaterally and telling him after it happened. And I get that. But I also know if I had told him, he would have flipped and demanded I find someone else. And I didn't want the headache. It was 1 week. Our kid was safe. He was with people he's known his whole life. He went to school, got fed, played with his best friend every day. It wasn't some drug den or frat house. But my ex acts like I threw him into the back of a stranger's van. Even after he picked him up, he kept texting me screenshots of old Facebook posts from my boyfriend, like one from 2019 that said, "Real dads don't clock in on weekends only," or some SHT like that. Trying to say that's why he doesn't want our son around this guy. He said next time something like this happens, I better tell him immediately. Or else we will go to court, and he'll push for legal custody agreements, and I might not like the outcome. I don't know if that's just a threat, but it freaked me out. And then there's his whole unsafe environment angle. Saying my boyfriend has too many people in and out of the house, his daughter's friends, his brother crashing there sometimes, and that he doesn't know who is around our kid. Again, nothing bad has ever happened. No police calls, no drama. But I can't argue that I left our son with someone he doesn't know anything about, outside of our mutual hate. My mom still hasn't dropped it. She keeps telling me I could have told him right when she called and avoided all this. My best friend said I was being smart and using my resources. But even she admitted my boyfriend crossed the line with the pickup day comments. So now I'm stuck wondering if I really screwed up here. Like, is this an actual red flag? Or just co-parenting drama? I didn't lie about where our son was. I just delayed telling him because I knew he'd react exactly like this. I made a judgment call. And now I'm being painted like I put our kid in danger because the guy watching him was someone my ex hates. So, Ada? Comments. Comment 1. Okay, I'm just gonna say it, this wasn't a parenting decision. It was a F you move dressed up as one. You knew your ex would hate it, you knew why. And you chose it anyway because it was convenient. And you didn't feel like dealing with the fallout until after your trip. This wasn't just about babysitting, this was personal. Your boyfriend was straight up waiting to be a DCK to your ex. That doesn't even look like you lying. That's some petty Maury show SHT, and you knew it would get under your ex's skin. Either you didn't care, or you wanted it to blow up once you were safely out of town and unreachable. Also, not telling your ex that his own kid wasn't where he thought he was for 4 full days is not minor. What if there was an emergency? What if your son mentioned something at school and a teacher called your ex? You basically handed off your parental responsibility to someone you knew couldn't resist pouring gasoline on the co-parenting dumpster fire, then dipped. YTA. Not just for leaving your son with someone the father despises, but for knowingly setting up a hostile, combative handoff and treating it like a logistics issue. Comment 2. Nah, this isn't just petty parenting SHT. Your judgment is horrendous, and you need to hear that. You said your boyfriend is basically a friend with benefits, not your partner, not a stepdad, not someone your ex has any reason to believe is committed to your kid's life long term. And you left your 7-year-old with him for 4 straight days, didn't tell the dad, and bounced to Miami. Then your boyfriend uses the pickup as a chance to take jabs at whether the kid's even his. That's not just trash talk. That's some borderline psychological warfare, and you let it happen. Also, you knew there was already tension. You mentioned Facebook posts, birthday party drama, years of SHT, and still you chose this man as your plan B babysitter. You picked the most inflammatory option available and acted surprised when things exploded. You didn't protect your son from conflict. You used him as a pawn in your messy arse adult grudge match. This was selfish. YTA hard. Grow up. You're not just a party girl anymore, you're a mum. Act like one. Comment 3. Easier to ask for forgiveness than permission is something you say when you eat the last slice of pizza, not when you're making custody decisions about a 7-year-old. That mindset is exactly how people lose primary parenting time once lawyers get involved. Biological parents get the first right of refusal unless there's abuse, neglect, or a court order saying otherwise. None of that applies here. Your ex didn't waive his parental rights just because he had to work. You don't get to quietly slot in a replacement carer he hates and then spring it on him last minute like it's an Amazon delivery. You knew this was wrong. You admitted it yourself. You didn't forget to tell him you chose not to tell him because you didn't want the argument. That's not co-parenting. That's avoidance, and judges see straight through that SHT. Also, when even your own mum is siding with your ex, that's usually a sign you should pause and reassess instead of digging in. YTA, and if your ex actually follows through with court, this post will read real different in hindsight. Update. So things haven't exactly calmed down. It's been a few weeks since the trip, and everything blew up with my ex. I already admitted I should have told him sooner about the change in plans when my mum bailed. I'm not pretending I was perfect. But I didn't expect the ripple effect to still be going. I wish I could say things went back to normal, but they didn't. My son's been acting different ever since that week. Not like wild or badly behaved, just off. He's been super clingy, asking me not to go out as much, checking where I'm going and when I'll be back, and even asking if he did something wrong when I left for the girls' trip. He never used to be like that. He's used to spending time at my mum's and used to weekends with his dad. This time, it's like it shook him. He even said something the other day like, "If I'm really good, will you stay home next time?" That hit me harder. I know he wasn't hurt or mistreated. My boyfriend's place is safe, and his kids were there the whole time, but maybe it was too different. Maybe having someone who usually just plays video games with him suddenly acting like a parent for a week confused him. Maybe he picked up on the tension when his dad showed up at the door. Or maybe he just missed me, and I didn't think about how long 5 days feels to a kid. I thought about talking to his dad about it, but I didn't because I knew what would happen. He'd use it as another excuse to say I'm unstable or selfish. I also didn't bring it up with my boyfriend because I don't want to stir the pot before New Year's. I already made plans with the girls for a small group trip, and I don't want to miss it while everything's still messy. I feel like if I start poking at things again, I'll end up canceling and sitting out while everyone else moves on. That friend group is one of the only constants in my life. And honestly, I'm feeling the tension even there. One of the girls, Kendra, hasn't been as responsive since the trip. We've been close since high school, and she's always backed me. But now it's like she's slowly fading. She made a passing comment last week like, "Well, at least I don't leave my kid with a guy my ex hates." And I couldn't tell if she was joking or not. I laughed it off, but it stuck with me. I asked another friend, Mel, if something was going on, and she just said everyone was a little surprised. I didn't give the ex a heads up. No one's outright attacking me, but I can feel it. I feel judged, like I'm the unstable one, the dramatic one. And yeah, I know I can be impulsive, but I didn't abandon my kid. He was cared for, safe, with a full belly, and in school on time. It just wasn't the carer his dad would have picked. That's the real issue. And of course, my ex hasn't let up. He's being way more formal with everything now. When we swap custody on weekends, He double-checks the pickup time and asks for confirmation in writing. He texted last week to ask who'd be watching our son during a weekday when I had to work late, even though it was my mom, who's always done it. He's being polite but robotic. It's clear he doesn't trust me at all anymore. I'm 95% sure he's recording our exchanges too. He's been careful with his words. He used to get worked up, sarcastic, and sometimes even passive-aggressive. Now it's like he's reading from a script. He said he reserves the right to formalize our custody terms if communication continues to break down. I know what that means. He's either been to a lawyer already or is about to. And now I'm in this weird spot where I feel like the happiness I've found is being treated like a threat. I'm not saying I want to marry my boyfriend tomorrow, but I've thought about what that could look like. We've known each other forever, even before the drama. And yeah, the history between him and my ex is messy, but that doesn't make it my fault. For anyone wondering, here's the real backstory. My ex and my current boyfriend used to be best friends. They ran a small landscaping company together. We all used to hang out, double date, whatever. But over time, things shifted. My ex and I were rocky, always off and on, and somewhere in the middle of that, I caught feelings for his friend. It got physical one night when we were on a break, and my ex caught us at his place. He went nuclear, said I'd been cheating the whole time, claimed we were sneaking around during our relationship. That wasn't true, but it didn't matter. The friendship ended. The business got sold off, and they haven't spoken since. I know people will say that alone makes my boyfriend a bad choice to parent with, but that part isn't relevant here. That was years ago. We've all moved on, or at least I thought we had. I'm not going to apologize for still seeing someone I connected with. I don't regret that part. But I do regret how I handled the trip. I could have avoided all of this if I had just picked up the phone, told my ex the truth, and dealt with the argument. Instead, I delayed it and dumped the tension on my son, and now everything feels like it's hanging by a thread. And I'm not the only one who feels it. My boyfriend's daughter, the one who helped watch the kids, has been standoffish with me ever since. She made a snarky comment the other day, like, "Glad we were good enough when you needed coverage, but I guess we're the drama now." I didn't say anything. I could have defended myself, but I'm tired. I feel like everyone's circling around me, my ex, my friends, even my support system, like I'm some kind of liability. But the truth is, I'm not mad because people think I messed up. I'm mad because it feels like I'm not allowed to be happy without being punished. My ex sees me smiling, planning trips, and finally finding someone who might turn into something real. And now suddenly he wants to take everything back. He had years to try harder, and now that I'm doing okay, he wants to drag me into court. So yeah, I made one mistake, I owned it. But all of this, the legal threats, the passive-aggressive friends, the cold stares at pickup, feels like payback for moving on. Like I'm being targeted for not wallowing in the wreckage anymore. I just want to co-parent, keep my life moving, and not have to sacrifice every piece of joy to avoid pissing someone off. But apparently, that's too much to ask. Comments. Comment 1. You're so focused on defending your right to be happy that you're completely missing how unhappy your kid clearly is. He came back clingy and insecure, asking if he can act better, so you don't leave again. That's not normal post-vacation behavior. That's a child who thinks he did something wrong to make his mom disappear. That's abandonment trauma developing in real time. You're brushing that off like it's just an unfortunate side effect of adult drama. But I'm telling you, that's how deep-rooted damage starts. Also, let's drop the bullshit. Your ex didn't assume you cheated. He caught you in the act. You just decided that because the breakup happened after, it somehow erases the betrayal. It doesn't. That moment destroyed 2 relationships and possibly contributed to a custody situation your son is still emotionally navigating. He's building a life that makes him look like the sane one in court. You're out here dodging hard conversations so you don't miss another beach house weekend. Your ex isn't trying to take your happiness. He's trying to stop you from screwing up your kid while you chase it. Comment 2. You keep insisting the past doesn't matter. But it absolutely does when your boyfriend is still antagonizing your ex at custody exchanges, and when your kid is literally witnessing the fallout of that rivalry. Kids aren't stupid. He saw his dad get humiliated on a doorstep. He felt the tension. Also, your boyfriend doesn't sound neutral here. He sounds like someone who enjoys having leverage. Questioning paternity, mocking involvement, bragging about stepping up. That's not accidental. That's someone still competing with your ex through your child. I'm not saying your ex is blameless, but I am saying you're pretending this is all about one babysitting decision, when really it's about you refusing to set boundaries between 2 men who still hate each other, and letting your son absorb the emotional shrapnel. This didn't blow up because your ex is jealous of your happiness. It blew up because you put a child in the middle of an old war and hoped everyone would act grown. They didn't, including you. Comment 3. You seriously cheated on your ex with his best friend, ruined their business and friendship, and now you think you can keep playing house with this guy without blowback. You think your son doesn't feel that tension? You think he's just being clingy for fun? No, he's scared. He saw something go down. Maybe it was the boyfriend mocking his dad. Maybe it was the weird energy in the house. He's not acting that way for no reason. He's 7. You left him with someone who is historically cruel to his father, and now he's trying to earn your love by being good. That's what kids do after abuse or emotional fear. You should be alarmed. You keep talking about how people are judging you and how your trip got ruined. Meanwhile, your son's forming abandonment issues, and you're worried about missing your next bottomless mimosa brunch. Your ex isn't trying to destroy your peace. He's trying to rescue his son from watching his parents treat him like a pawn in their decade-old ego war. Think about that for a moment. Update. I didn't plan on updating again, but enough has happened that it feels dishonest not to. A lot of people told me after my last update that I was headed towards losing custody if I didn't slow down. I thought that was dramatic. I had a lot going on. I was overwhelmed, and I figured everyone was blowing a few bad moments out of proportion. They weren't. Things started unraveling pretty fast after that post. The first big incident happened on a random weekday evening. My son was with me, and my boyfriend came over after work. It wasn't supposed to be anything serious, just hanging out, ordering food, and watching something dumb. My son was excited because he hadn't seen him in a while and kept interrupting us, climbing on the couch, talking over the TV, and asking questions nonstop. I was irritated. I won't lie. I had a long day and just wanted quiet for once. At some point, my boyfriend snapped. He told my son to sit down and stop messing around. My son didn't listen right away, so my boyfriend took a toy he'd been playing with and said he'd get it back later if he behaved. I didn't think it was a big deal. Parents discipline kids all the time. But my son shut down immediately. Later that night, when his dad came to pick him up, he told him everything. Not just that night, but other stuff too. Comments my boyfriend had made, times he'd scared him, things he'd said when no one else was around. I didn't know he'd been saying things behind his daughter's back. I swear that part is true. My ex didn't argue with me. He just told me flat out that our son wouldn't be coming back to my place for now. That if I had a problem, I could complain, report, do whatever. But until this was sorted out, our son was staying with him. I lost it. I accused him of kidnapping. He told me to call the cops if I thought that's what it was. I didn't. Instead, I tried to show up. I went to his house a couple of times. He wouldn't let me in. I texted constantly. He kept everything short and documented. Around that time, my son's birthday came up. I'd already planned a party, decorations, cake, friends from my side, and my boyfriend's family. I didn't want to cancel it. I figured it would look bad if I did. My ex refused to let our son attend. Said it wasn't appropriate given everything going on. So I had the party anyway. It was humiliating. Kids showed up. Parents asked where my son was. I made excuses. Took pictures anyway because I didn't know what else to do. Some of my friends didn't come at all. A few left early. Then there was the school event. I completely forgot about it until the day of. I showed up late, flustered, thinking I could still salvage it. When I walked in, my ex was already there sitting with his girlfriend next to my son. They were calm and organized, like a little family unit. My son didn't even look up when I came in. That's when it finally hit me that I was losing control of the situation. Court came next. My ex filed for emergency custody. He had documentation, texts, dates, statements from the school. And then the real blow. My son talked to a court-appointed professional. He described things my boyfriend had done that I genuinely didn't know about. Things that crossed lines. There was an investigation. My boyfriend's daughter cooperated. She had no idea what had been happening when she wasn't around. The outcome was bad. I lost primary custody. Then custody altogether. I was ordered supervised visitation only, pending further review. I was also ordered to pay child support. I still can't wrap my head around that part. Paying support when I used to have him most of the time feels unreal. Like I slipped into someone else's life. Financially, everything collapsed fast. I couldn't keep up with my trips anymore. Between support payments, rent, and bills, I was drowning. I asked my boyfriend for help. Not to take care of me, just to spot me. Help stabilize things while I figured it out. That's when he pulled away. First it was excuses. Then distance. Then one night he told me, straight up, that I should find another guy because I was starting to feel like a burden. Those were his words. He said he didn't sign up for this level of drama, that I was latching on, and that it was too much. We had talked about moving in together, about building something eventually. That vanished overnight. His daughter and her brother went no contact with him once everything came out. She wants nothing to do with him now. So yeah, he didn't walk away clean either, but that still doesn't help me. What I lost feels bigger than just custody. I lost my friends. Not in one dramatic blow, but slowly. Fewer invites. Shorter replies. Then nothing. I don't get texts about trips anymore. No group chats. No last-minute plans. I lost the stepdaughter I thought I was going to have someday. I lost the life I had, the freedom, the fun, the version of myself that wasn't constantly being judged or monitored. I can't even enjoy the things I used to. Going out feels pointless. Vacations aren't an option. Sitting alone in my apartment feels suffocating. Everything I built my life around is gone. People keep saying I should have prioritized my son more. That I ignored warning signs. That I chose convenience and fun over responsibility. Maybe that's true. But I still feel like I'm the only one who lost everything. My ex has his son. A girlfriend. Stability. My boyfriend cut ties and moved on. My friends disappeared. And I'm left paying for mistakes I didn't think were this serious at the time. I don't know how to rebuild from this. All I know is the life I had is over. And nobody seems to miss me the way I miss it. That's it. That's the update. Comments. Comment 1. I've got zero sympathy for your boyfriend either. He played the long game, slid into your life when it was convenient, got to act like a fake stepdad without the responsibility, and dipped the second it got heavy. You said he helped with the kid. No, he tolerated him when it didn't interfere with his vibe. The moment your son became annoying, he punished him like a stranger. And worse, he hid his behavior behind your back. And yet you were still clinging to the dream of moving in together, while he was actively backing away and planning his exit. That guy never respected you. He tolerated you, until you became a problem. Then he discarded you like a liability. Honestly, he's a snake. But you let him coil around your whole life, and squeeze the air out of everything that actually mattered. Comment 2. You say you lost your life, your parties, your boyfriend, your girls' trips. But you never once say, I lost my son's trust. And that's the part that effing floors me. Your kid told you with his behavior that he was scared, that he was hurting, that he didn't feel safe. And your response was to keep everything running: your image, your social life, your comfort. You were more worried about being the cool mom with a life than being a safe one. This is what the system is built for. To step in when parents start prioritizing everything except the child. Your ex played it smart, documented, waited, protected. And your kid? He finally told the truth. Not to hurt you, but to save himself. And now, he's where he needs to be. I'm not saying this can't be repaired, but not while you're still grieving the life you had like it's some rom-com tragedy. That life was never yours to keep. Your kid should have always come first. Comment 3. What gets me is how you still narrate everything like the universe conspired to ruin your life, like you're the victim of some plot twist, instead of the main character who refused to read the room. Let's call it what it is. You picked your ego, your boyfriend, and your lifestyle every single time over that kid. You say you didn't know what your boyfriend was doing behind your back. Maybe. But you sure didn't want to look, because if you acknowledged it, you'd have to do something about it. And you couldn't risk shaking the boat when you were busy trying to play cool mom with a hot guy. Now you're stuck crying about missed brunches and ghosted group chats like those things even remotely compare to your kid living with someone who actually protects him. Second story. My husband is a manipulative man-child, and I finally left him after he forgot to bring tomatoes for dinner. Long-time listener and first-time Reddit OP. I'm sorry this will be on the longer side. So my husband 27M and I 26F have been together for 6 years, married for about 8 months. Important context for our relationship. We met when I was an undergrad and my husband was working full-time. Before, my husband was the primary earner of our house, paying our rent and utilities and groceries, while I focused on keeping the house, cooking dinners, cleaning, laundry, errands, etc. Fast forward to now. We both have full-time jobs, and our salaries are about the same, so we are splitting all bills evenly. Well, recently we had a talk about how I felt as though the mental and physical responsibilities of the house still fall primarily on me, even though we agreed that the dynamic would change when I started contributing more financially. I still plan and cook most nights 4-5 days a week. If we don't meal prep, I shut down the house at night, clean the kitchen, put dishes in the sink dishwasher, pick up our mess and the cat toys, etc. I do the laundry and bathroom cleaning, and I basically do everything else. I have been very open throughout our relationship about how I don't want our relationship marriage to be one where the wife carries the mental load for the entire family, while the man only acts as the breadwinner and doesn't help at all until she inevitably has a mental breakdown or is pushed to divorce. I witnessed how damaging this can be with my own mom and dad, and I refuse to repeat that. We hardly ever fight, but almost all of our arguments have been on this topic. I've broken down in tears from exhaustion or from feelings of being overwhelmed trying to balance school, multiple jobs, and everything at home, and yet, nothing really changes. My husband has been seemingly very open and receptive of these conversations, and always says he will do better to take more off of my plate. But this only lasts a few days or weeks before we fall into old habits, and I am doing it all myself. So, the most recent argument. On our usual after-work phone call, I asked my husband to stop at the store and pick up a few ingredients for dinner that I had forgotten when I went grocery shopping. All we needed was ground beef, a can of tomatoes, and milk. When he got to the store, he asked me to remind him what we needed, and after he said, "Okay, so pasta for dinner. That's easy. I can cook it since you cooked yesterday." And I said, "Thank you. I have a migraine and really don't want to cook anyways, so that is perfect." So he gets home about 30 minutes later and starts unloading the groceries. I asked, "Where are the tomatoes?" He said, "I forgot them." I said, "Okay, should I go back to the store because we can't make a sauce without a base? And we have nothing else prepped for dinner?" He said, "No, I forgot them, so I'll go back." So he goes back to the store. At this point, it is almost 7 o'clock, and I am super hungry. I decided to start the pasta on my own, because at this point, he wouldn't be back for another 30 minutes, which means dinner wouldn't be done for at least another hour. He comes home and says, "I thought I was cooking." And I explained the timing issue and how I needed to eat to take my migraine medicine anyway, so this way we can eat earlier. His response: "This is the F problem. You always ask me to step in and help take the burden off of you, but then you do it before I can. Or if I do help, you stand there and micromanage everything that I'm doing. It's like you don't trust me to do anything." I know this isn't Ada, but this is where I might be the arsehole. My response: "I don't trust you. I mean, I trust you in the big ways, like I trust you to be honest and loyal and take care of me and our cats, and I would literally put my life in your hands. But on the day-to-day small stuff, I feel like I can't trust you at all. You keep saying you are going to help out around here, but you constantly forget things I ask from you or claim you never heard me say it in the first place, especially if it was something simple around the house. I mean, Jesus, you can't even remember a can of tomatoes 5 minutes after I asked you to grab them." He was quiet for a minute and said, "Then why did you marry me?" in the most heartbreaking voice ever, and left the room crying. I finished cooking, packed it away in the fridge with a note that said, "I'm sorry," made a bowl of cereal, and ate it on the couch where I slept that night. I know my delivery was harsh, and I probably took it too far, but how else can I get it across that I need him to do better? I'm not asking him to take over the entire mental or physical load. I would just appreciate coming home to dinner cooking, or the apartment clean every once in a while, like he gets to come home to almost every single day. I love this man more than anything in the world, but don't know how much longer I can play this. I promise I can do better game. I am so tired. Comments. OP provides answers and a comment based on common questions. OP: I don't know what I was expecting the comments to look like, but I would like to address some of the common ones I am seeing. I texted him a list when I initially asked him to go to the store. The phone call was just a reminder since we were already talking when he got to the grocery store. We both have ADHD. We both forget things all the time, and usually there are no issues. But in this case, I think there is a difference between forgetting the only 3 items for a whole trip versus 3 things from an entire list of ingredients for 2 weeks' worth of breakfasts, lunches, and dinners along with the rest of the grocery list. I do my best to remember everything for every meal, but occasionally I forget things. When this happens, I usually would go to the store myself since I was the one who forgot the ingredients in the first place. But I had a migraine and just wanted to go home after work. On that same note, all of the comments telling me to sit down and make a chore chart act like I haven't already tried that. We had set days for meals he would cook and had a list of chores he was responsible for. But after a week or two, He would stop. Like he wouldn't do the dishes or take out the trash until they were overflowing. Or he would be on a game that he couldn't pause. So I should just make dinner without him. And we would be right back to square one. I don't micromanage or undermine him. When I ask him to do things, I usually ask him to do it before we go to bed, which means he has 4-6 hours at night or the entire day on the weekends. Or I ask him if he's at a good point to pause his game and do it quickly. And if not, whenever he has a break. If he doesn't do it that day or the next day, I don't think I am out of line for doing it myself, because at that point, who knows when it is going to get done. Letting my house get gross to prove a point just means more work for me to do later. A lot of people told me to just stop complaining and hire a maid. We don't make money like that. I get maids aren't crazy expensive, but I have extensive medical bills, and we both have student loan credit card debt, so we don't have a lot extra in our budget. Also, we shouldn't have to hire someone to do basic chores that we are both fully capable of doing ourselves. It would take us an hour on the weekends deep cleaning, and maybe 20 minutes a night for daily cleaning if we both did our share. I made a mistake. I suffer from chronic migraines, so I know the warning signs, and I usually have a snack with me or a quick meal that I can make to take my medication with. I thought dinner would be within my window before it was too late, and I was wrong. I didn't eat the dinner after because I was too nauseous. A lot has happened over the weekend, so I will post a better update tomorrow. Commenter 1. I think snapping was going to happen eventually. You can only hear the same thing over and over again before you stop believing it. I do, however, really believe you would both benefit from couples therapy. They can help break down the communication in a way you can both understand. While what you said was harsh, it doesn't make it wrong. I hope you're both able to work through this. OP. I agree that we could use couples therapy. I feel like I'm not being heard, and I'm doing it all, and he feels like I am micromanaging and attacking him. I have tried talking about it calmly, even asking for his input on how to improve things so he doesn't feel like it's all about what he's not doing. But at the end of the day, I'm still doing the work of trying to figure out a plan for both of us. I have to be careful about what I say and how I say it so it doesn't hurt his feelings. But that just adds more to my mental load. I feel like a therapist could at least help us figure out what the real underlying issue is in all this, because it can't always be that he forgot. OP on having conversations with her husband about splitting chores 50-50ths, and with him manipulating her to do everything and him doing nothing at home. OP, thank you. A lot of people are saying that I'm in the wrong for being emotional. But like you said, we have had this conversation multiple times. We have talked about it in steps. One conversation was about taking over cooking a few nights a week. Another conversation was about splitting weekly chores. Another about daily chores, and so on. The problem is that we keep having the same conversations over and over. And I get emotional about it every few months, because I find myself doing it all even after I talk to him about what I need and how he can better contribute. I understand that some people think that my crying is manipulative as well. But hey, sometimes I cry when I get overwhelmed, and I feel like I'm not being heard. Commenter 2. Oh, honey, he manipulated you really well, didn't he? He played the self-pity card, and you fell for it. He is not trustworthy. He is not reliable. You are carrying the mental load. He is not trying to do better. He is half-arsing everything so you won't bother to ask him again. OP, I didn't want to believe it was manipulation. But after reading these comments, I'm starting to see a pattern. Every time we have one of these conversations or arguments, I am always comforting him because he feels like he is being attacked for not doing enough when he tries his best. I've always had trouble regulating my emotions, so I always assumed I genuinely took things too far or was too harsh. So I was likely in the wrong. But this thread has shown me that I am just easily manipulated. Update. Thank you to everyone for helping me feel validated in my exhaustion, while also calling me out and helping me see my husband's perspective. Here is the current situation. I flew home for the weekend for a girls' trip with my mum and my aunt, while my husband stayed home and watched the fight with a few of his friends. Sunday morning, I texted my husband to confirm my flight times so he could come pick me up, and he said, "I'll be there. We need to talk." So I land, get my bags, and get to the car, and he has flowers for me. He said, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have forgotten the tomatoes," and I said, "Thank you. But it wasn't really about the tomatoes." And before I could say anything else, he goes, "I know. That's what I wanted to talk to you about." He then goes on to tell me that during the fight, his friends asked where I was, and he said, "She's with her family," and they said, "Ooh, are you in trouble?" And he said, "Yes." So then he told them all about our fight. Apparently, his friends Chase 35M and Alex 29M, both married, told him that he missed the point, and that he was in the wrong. His friend Andrew 28M was also there. But he is not married or dating at the moment, so I'm assuming that he opted to stay out of it. He didn't tell me any other details about their conversation. But his conclusion was that he was wrong and needed to apologize for whatever the real issue was. I sat there for a moment looking absolutely shocked. I said, "Do you even know what you're barely apologizing for?" And he said, "Yeah, I forget things sometimes, and you have to do it for me. This time I forgot the tomatoes, and you felt like you had to make dinner, so you got mad and snapped at me." I took a few moments to collect myself and fix my WTF face before saying, "No, the issue is that you don't listen to me. I was mad about the tomatoes because it was the final straw. You don't just forget things at the store. You forget to do the things that you've agreed to do. How many times do I have to ask you to help me cook or help around the house? How many chore charts and chore lists and to-do lists do we have to make for you to actually help with anything?" He got defensive and said, "If you reminded me of the things you need me to do, I would do them," to which I said, "That's the problem. Asking you to do things and then having to constantly remind you that you should do them is nagging and exhausting. I need you to remember. Write it down. Set an alarm. Find some way to make it work for you. I can't keep asking you to step up. I need you to actually step up." He didn't say anything for a few minutes, so I said, "I think we have to go to couples counseling. I don't think this is something we can solve on our own." He said, "Fine," and then drove the rest of the way home in silence. When we got home, he went into his game room and started blasting music. I knocked on the door and asked him if we could finish our conversation, and his response was, "You already figured it out for us, so what else is there to talk about?" I said, "This is childish, and I'm leaving. You don't want to figure things out just the two of us, and you don't want to have professional help in communicating. I don't know what else to do, but I can't do it myself, and things can't stay like this. I'm going to my parents' house. Let me know when you're ready to talk." And I left. That was 2 days ago, and I am still at my parents' house. The only texts and calls I've gotten from him are, "Where is X?" or "When are you coming back?" I have not responded to the "Where is X?" texts, but I told him I will come back when he is ready to talk seriously. No crying, no arguing, just a serious conversation about what the real issue is and how we are going to change things. No responses to that yet. The more I think about this whole situation, the more I realize that I've been played this entire relationship. I am always the bad guy. Everything is my fault. I am not allowed to be emotional because that hurts his feelings. This, along with the weaponized incompetence, is too much. I want to have a real conversation with him, but history shows it won't go anywhere. If he doesn't agree to couples therapy or some other major way to show me that he wants this too, I'm leaving. I'm not going to fight for this on my own. Thank you all for your advice. P.S. I saw a comment about the timing of the posts and figured I should clarify here too. The big fight happened last Thursday. I tried to post the original post on Friday before I left for my trip, but it got taken down because of the formatting, as you can tell. I tend to write a lot, so I had block text issues, and so when I reposted it, I didn't bother changing everything to past tense. I came back from my trip on Sunday and posted this update on Tuesday. Comments. Commenter 1. In the original post, you didn't mention the previous attempts of lists and chore charts. This information changes everything. If he can hold a job, he can figure out a way to remember and complete tasks you agree on. This is manipulation. You are correct in demanding he do better and attend couples counseling. But I think it is wrong to run off to your parents' house when you acknowledge that you both need to communicate. Go home, ask him. If his boss asked him to make dinner, get items at the store, and clean the kitchen, what would he do to make sure he remembered to complete them to ensure he kept his job? Don't talk or jump in with suggestions. Wait for his answer, no matter how long it takes. Then ask him why he didn't care enough to come up with this plan to ensure he kept his marriage. OP. I didn't realize until after I posted the original that I just mentioned our previous conversations and not our solutions. As I was writing out the update and responding to comments, I realized just how much effort I have put into this, and it's truly embarrassing. Whiteboards, calendars, apps, and paper ones, to-do lists, charts, and automatic reminders alarms on our Alexa. It's funny that you mentioned the "if your boss asked" scenario because he just won an award at work for outstanding service and leadership. After all of this nonsense, I should scratch his name out and put mine on it for all of my service and leadership. OP clarifies the timeline posted here with her situation. OP. The fight happened last Thursday. I left for my trip on Friday, and I came back on Sunday when the update was. I tried to post the original before I left for my trip. but it got taken down for block text. So when I reposted it, I didn't bother changing everything to the past tense. Commenter 2. Every day you spend waiting around for him to do anything is a waste of your time and life. Start divorce proceedings and serve him with divorce papers. That'll take at least a week or 2. If he actually wants to talk to you within that time, you can consider canceling it. But I would advise you to stop waiting around for him to take action when you know he'll never do it. Commenter 3. Your exhaustion and sadness just radiate from your posts. You're right to finally see that if he doesn't make a move to show he's ready for major changes, there's not much you can do about it. I'm so sorry this is happening to you. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.